All right. Good morning to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, also co creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And thanks so much for joining us wherever you are watching from, whether it's live or if you're watching us, after the fact. Thanks so much for joining us. As you well know, every Saturday we like to do show known only as This Week in Pop Culture, in which we give you the goings on, the rundowns of what's happened in the past week. And today I will be going solo. I want to wish some well wishes to my co-host who I normally have with me, Spillman. Not feeling well, so he will be joining us next week. So sending you all the good vibes. Feel better, sir. But if you guys were taking a look at the background that I have, a little later we're going to be talking about the first look at The Crow. As you well know, we had Ernie Hudson not too long ago on here talking about the 30th anniversary, of The Crow, starring the late Brandon Lee, of course. However, we're going to be talking about the remake. I know a lot of people are saying reboot, but I will go into further detail as to why I, determined it to be a remake versus a reboot. So that will be, happening a little later. But with that out of the way, we're going to be talking about some of the news stories that have happened over the course of this week. So we'll start with our first one, and this is centered around the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. Students receiving a shocking, guess you could say a shocking surprise. Let me see if I can pull up the video for you guys. Give me one moment. Let's see here. Here we go. So yes, over the course of this week, and I'll play the video. It's muted right now, but this past this past Monday, Ruth uh, Gottesman, the 93-year-old widow of the Wall Street financier David Gottesman, donated $1 billion to the Bronx Medical School, known as the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, with instructions that the gift be used to cover tuition for all students going forward. Now, just to give you some details about just the donation in and of itself, it's notable not only for, of course, the incredible amount that we're talking here in terms of the donation, but also because it's going to a medical institution that not only, let me see if I could uh play this here. Give me one second. I have a little minor difficulty, guys. But yeah, as I said, the donation is not only notable, not only due to the size, of course, but also due to the fact that it's going to a medical institution in the Bronx, which is the city's poorest borough, and it will go in effect as of August of this year. So, shout out to the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. That's incredible to be able to have the tuition paid for its students going into effect as of this coming season. So not for the season that's about to conclude, but next year. So that I know that's going to be an interesting dynamic. I was talking to a lot of people offline and talking about how interesting that will be for those that perhaps have some additional years left, and maybe how that's going to work for those years that they had to pay out of their own pocket, and now having those additional years. And I can't also even imagine for those that perhaps are even graduating this year and won't be able to, unfortunately, benefit, from this major donation. But again, awesome story to hear of, someone being able to, assist those that are, trying to seek, higher education, trying to earn their degree. Because, if I had a nickel, and I'm sure many of you out there can attest to that too, of those that still are paying back the debt that they have, from the higher, education or degrees that they have, sought in their earlier years, in their young adult years. So, um, terrific story to hear. Switching gears into our next story. I know sometimes we like to, talk about sports here. So I want to get into the sports bit that we did have today for today's show, and that is surrounding one of the Cavalier players, Max Struess, who hit a buzzer beater this past Tuesday in the game against the Mavs. What makes this shot so remarkable is that apparently it is the second longest game-winning buzzer beater in a three-point area, according to Basketball Reference. Um, in terms of just the Cavs in and of themselves this past month, in the month of February. I know as of Friday, we just started our new month, but the Cavaliers have actually been on a pretty, nice run, going 8-3 prior to that Mavs game that they had on Tuesday. They've split a couple of games since then, but just in terms of just that idea of the the history that was set behind this actual shot is quite remarkable. It was a wild game in terms of the the back and forth that was happening, in that fourth quarter. Those last, I'll probably say just that stint that was happening within the second half of the fourth quarter between the Mavs and Cavs. It was just going back and forth, back and forth. I definitely recommend you guys, take a look back at those highlights, because it was insane to kind of see everything go back and forth between the teams. And I know currently it's a great thing to see in light of what has been happening with the All Star game, and what has been said about just the nature of the league in general. I know there was some controversy with the All Star game in talking about how there wasn't a lot of effort put forth, and is there really a need for the All Star game? Me personally, I love All Star Weekend, but as I was talking to Spillman last week, it's kind of crazy to think of how underwhelming the last couple of years the All Star weekend has become. It used to always be something that I looked forward to, and these days it's something that I'll try to catch the highlights after the fact, because the last couple of years between the uh, the game in and of itself, has been relatively underwhelming, and minus the, I guess you can say, the wrinkle that they threw in of having, what is it, the National Basketball Developmental League, having players being able to participate in the dunk competition, I guess, to mix things up. Outside of Mac McClung last year, and he won again this year, but outside of that last year, there hasn't really been moments that have been exciting or things to look forward to, with that game. And I've always looked forward to, those particular events, whether it's on NBA Saturday with the 3-point competition and the dunk contest, or uh, the big game that happens on Sunday. So, hopefully they're able to find some ways to be able to mix things up, or to make things more dynamic. I feel like something has to be done to provide incentive to the players because, understandably so from their end, they're trying to ensure that they're not, that they're protecting their bodies and prepping, getting ready for the postseason. And I mean, while I get all of that, at the same time, you want to also be able to provide provide that excitement for the very fans that play a factor in those paychecks, those huge paychecks that a lot of the players are receiving and earning. So there at some point there has to be some type of meeting in the middle, if you will, between the players and the effort that they put out and what is done to I guess alleviate maybe the concern that they have on their end of that effort that's put forth. So uh we'll see what happens with that. But again, awesome moment with Matt Strus of the Cleveland Cavaliers and the 59-foot buzzer beater that he hit against the Mavs, as I said on Tuesday. So switching gears out of the world of sports, I wanted to also get into the world of film. And this is with the world of Superman. There was a lot of news with Superman that had dropped over the course of this week. So we're going to be able to, dive right in. I'll start first just with the Superman first look. So let me put that up for you guys. So as I said on, let's see, last Thursday, and let me see if I can get up his page here. Give me one moment, guys. Yeah, here we go. So yeah, as of this past Thursday, DC Studios co-chair and co-CEO James Gunn took to social media and provided a look at Superman Legacy, now known as Superman, simply known as Superman per his post. So let me get that up for you guys, that specific post that he put up. And it's right here, as you see, with the emblem with Superman. And just to read what he has here listed, overjoyed to be announcing the start of principal photography on Superman today, February 29th, which just so happens to be coincidentally an unplanned Superman's birthday. When I finished the first draft of the script, I called the film Superman Legacy. By the time I locked the final draft, it was clear the title was Superman. Making our way to you, July 2025. So there you guys have it. As I said, he is the co-chair and co-CEO of DC Studios, but he just so happens to also be the director of Superman. So we have a look at the emblem there. Another thing that I wanted to give you guys a look at that we also were provided, that was provided, I should say, on James Gunn's page here, was also a look at some of its stars. We have Lois Lane, Superman, as well as Lex Luthor. So just to give you guys just a quick peek here. They gave us a peek of our Trinity with our two leads, and our with our protagonist and antagonist. So just to give you just a uh, quick tease, as I said, of Superman, of Lex Luthor, and of our Lois Lane there. Um, we also got some additional news just to give you guys, some further details about Superman, and that is surrounding Wendell Pierce. I know there was, some speculation going out there of, okay, now that we have a look at Superman, we will say we have a look at the emblem for Superman, we have a look at some of our actors, Superman, Lex Luthor, as well as Lois Lane. Who would be playing Perry White, the iconic editor in chief of the Daily Planet, and as I said, is going to be none other than Wendell Pierce. It was announced, or I should say, it was provided in an exclusive via Hollywood Reporter, announced just yesterday. So still relatively new news, fresh news. And if Wendell Pierce, looks familiar. You may recognize him from The Wire, from Power Book, Raising Canaan. But me personally, I don't know if we have any other fans of the said show out there, but I recognize him from Ray Donovan. I remember him from Ray Donovan. As I said, he will be playing none other than the iconic Daily Planet editor in chief Perry White in James Gunn's newly titled Superman. As I said, just moments before that, the film is known as, or should say, was formerly known as Superman Legacy. But in doing the final draft, as I was reading, for James Gunn that he has posted on his IG, he came to the decision to simply title the film Superman. All right, so switching gears out of our, two film stories, we did have some unfortunate news that happened over the course of this week, and that was surrounding comedian Richard Lewis, who many people may recognize from or know from Curb Your Enthusiasm, as well as for me, I know I remember him from Robin Hood Men in Tights. He unfortunately passed over the course of this week. It was reported by TMZ that he had passed in his home due to a heart attack this past Wednesday. As I said, unfortunate news. He was a legendary, comedian in terms of the various projects that he has, been a part of, that he has brought his talents to. So, condolences to his family and friends, and he'll be missed in terms of much of the talent and the wit that he brought to each of the projects that he was a part of. And if you're joining us now, thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, as I said, going solo today. We'll be able to weave through many of these stories a lot quicker than perhaps we normally do, because I normally have my co-host with me, Mr. Spills, but Mr. Spills is not feeling feeling up to speed today. So he's going to be joining us next week, but I still wanted to be able to go through those story bits with you guys, and I appreciate having you guys on. If you guys have any comments yourselves in terms of some of the stories that I'm discussing, feel free to drop your comments and uh, uh, things that you have to say about some of the things that we learned this week. So getting right into our main story, and you probably saw it here in the background, is surrounding The Crow. So this Wednesday, Lionsgate released images that you see here of the remake of The Crow, the comic book adaptation, of course, made iconic by the late Brandon Lee. This one stars Bill Skarsgård and FKA Twigs, seen in the images that you're seeing here. The film is set to release in June of this year, June 7 to be exact. And just to give you a quick synopsis that has been provided on this remake, it states that soulmates Eric Draven, Skarsgård, and Shelley Webster, FKA Twigs, are brutally murdered when the demons of their dark past catch up with them. All right, now, in going into further details about the synopsis, it goes on to say, given the chance to save his true love by sacrificing himself, Eric sets out to seek merciless revenge on their killers, traversing the worlds of the living and the dead to put the wrong things right. Now, outside of Skarsgård and FK Twigs, as I mentioned, just now, and who you see here, who are playing Draven and Webster, respectively, the cast also includes the likes of Danny Houston, Isabella Way, Laura Byrne, and I apologize if I'm butchering your name, Sammy Buagila, and Jordan Bolger. Now, just recently, I did have a cast member, of course, Ernie Hudson, who we also know as one of the OG Ghostbusters, on the show, talking about the original, starring, as I said, the late Brandon Lee. And oh, okay. I see that I have someone here. Hello, if you are joining us live. We're just talking, getting into the final story and talking about The Crow. But as I said, just recently I had Ernie Hudson on the show talking about talking about his experiences doing the original, which is crazy to believe that it happened 30 years ago in 1994. But the reason why, and I mentioned it at the top, the reason why I consider what we have here as a remake, and I know a lot of the wording that has been used is the idea of reboot, is I feel like, and you guys can if you guys feel differently, you can tell me in the comments. When we're talking about reboots, a lot of times reboots are reimaginings that are happening not too far away from the actual source material. We have clear examples of that if we're talking about films like Spider-Man, where you know we're only a couple of years removed from an adaptation that was already done, and we're trying to kind of recalibrate and restart what's happening with something that is not that far removed from the initial take that was done on that given IP. Now, with this being 30 years, I feel like we're way outside the realm of a reboot, and at this point, you might as well categorize it as a remake. I know sometimes a lot of those terms I feel very much get confused, remakes and reboots. But for me personally, when we're talking about reboots, we're talking about a film where, you know, perhaps there was one initial take on a given property, on a intellectual property, on an IP, and we're only, maybe a few years removed, or maybe 3 years removed. We may be 5 years removed, or at most maybe 10 years removed, and we're trying to restart it again. But if we're talking about something that is near just about a generation away from that initial material that we're talking about, I feel we're well beyond that placement or that term of a reboot, and more logically in that idea of a remake. Now, it looks like they are using the same names. So I guess, in terms of having, some of those same components, some people may categorize it or want to be able to, put in that term of reboot. But with it being this far removed, I still say, a remake. And from what I understand, they're going to be going in a different direction in terms of how that tragic event happens that causes Eric Draven in this iteration played by Skarsgård, how he ends up, what tragic situation ends up causing him to become the Crow. Because in the original, and again, it's been 30 years. I don't want to spoil it, but I mean, again, it's been 30 years, so I don't feel like it's not a big deal for me to spoil it. Is that you have a horrible situation with Draven and with Webster, so with Shelly and with Eric, where they are horribly attacked, and it results in the deaths of Webster and of Draven in their apartment, and that becomes kind of I guess you could say a holding ground or a hideout for Draven once he becomes a Crow, once he is resurrected by the Crow and becomes that entity. So it'll be interesting to see, in this take that's being done, in them redoing the story 30 years later, how they will approach that, or what they will do to still have it act in that same spirit of what transpires with that couple, and um, how he redefines himself, or rechristens himself as the Crow. So there you guys have it. I'm not gonna, as I said, it's gonna be a pretty quick show. It's not gonna be super long. Didn't want to spend too much time. I wanted to still be able to get through these stories, with you guys. What were your thoughts? How do you guys feel about some of the things that we talked about? As I said, we had the story with the Albert, Einstein, a College of Medicine, incredible story in terms of that donation. We had, some news in the world of sports with Max Strutz with the 59-foot buzzer beater. Do you guys feel that that's like the most incredible buzzer beater that we've had, in the NBA in the recent years? Maybe you're like, yeah, it's not, it wasn't that impressive. You guys can, check out, look up that link for his buzzer beater and let me know, in the comments. Or, what are your thoughts on the first looks that we got of Superman, not only of the emblem, some of the cast, some of the announcements, with the cast, especially with Perry White that we had there with Wendell Pierce. And then even lastly, what are your thoughts if you guys are fans of the original Crow? What were your thoughts on what they've shown thus far? Me personally, I know a lot of people said that they weren't really impressed with what they saw, but I feel like decision can't really be made just on stills alone. Time and time again, I feel like a lot of times, you see stills and just in that captured moment, I don't feel that it can fully capture what it can look like in real time. And I feel like me personally, I'm not able to actually make a decision on it until I actually see a trailer or see it in context. So I know a lot of folks are saying like, "Oh, that's not the Crow," or I don't like what they did with the tattoos on Eric Draven or any of that stuff. But again, like there may be a reason why those choices make sense. There may be a reason why it doesn't make sense also, so let me be clear on that. But there may be a reason why it makes sense, and the only way we'll know that is if it's within the context of what they are showing us in the story. And maybe we'll get a glimpse of that in the trailer. I'm guessing we'll probably get a trailer soon, because a lot of times when they drop a lot of stills for publicity wise, when they drop a lot of stills or feature first looks, so to speak, of a given film, what they'll do is they'll start with the stills and then not too far behind drop a trailer. So since we didn't get the trailer immediately after the stills, I would guess that we might get it, and I have no proof of this, but I would guess that we might get it either Monday or Tuesday this week. Because I would feel that because of a lot of the attention that, whether it's good or bad, of the stills that were released, that they want to Lionsgate will want to keep that momentum and keep that attention on their project by also dropping the trailer soon after. So uh, I have no proof of this, but just know that I will be reposting this if I turn out to be right about the trailer dropping on either Monday or on Tuesday. So stay tuned for that, because I will definitely repost this moment if I turn out to be true with that guess. But with that out of the way, there you guys have it. Another edition of This Week in Pop Culture. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host as well as co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find me, and let me put mine up here. You can find me at on X at Brandon Choi ENT, and also Brandon Choi underscore ENT on Instagram. Be on the lookout tomorrow, as we will be doing a 30th anniversary, talking Shawshank Redemption with none other than Mark Rolston and Bill Sadler. And then be on the lookout too, because we do have some events that are on the way coming up. I know that I wanted to do this a little earlier today, which is why I'm not doing it later in the afternoon that we normally do this show. I'm doing it earlier because I'm also headed to ChromaCon. So I'll try to post some cool in the moment moments from that show as well. But again, thank you guys. I appreciate your input, and I appreciate having you guys check out a lot of the cool stuff that we have here. As I always say, thank you so much. Be safe out there and see you soon. Bye.